a few, but both of these men sitting up here have comics that they have written. So we have the Phenom X new series by John Leguizamo, as well as Rafael Garcia Henchman by Peter Murrieta. So one of the things I most admire about these guys is that they're both creators. They have worked in film, television, they've released books, one-man shows. I want to ask you guys, what made you want to get into the medium of graphic novels? So one of the things that...
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, please go first.
I feel like I've spent 20 years doing television, pitching television, been really lucky to work in it and make some awesome shows. But I think John would probably agree with me, it's not as easy to get Latin shows over the top. And so occasionally I have an idea that I can't get someone to buy, and I'm like, I want that story out there, and I'm gonna make it happen any way I can. So that's what the origin of Henchman was. It was my boys going to see Marvel and DC movies and saying, where are the Mexicans at? And so I wrote this story about,
Well, I agree with Peter, because I created Phenom X because there weren't enough Latinx superheroes in comic books or superhero movies, and yet we are superheroes everywhere.
Every day.
Half of the Major League Baseball league is Latinx.
Yes.
Half the Mets are Latinx. Half the Dodgers are Latinx.
Yeah.
Half the MMA are Latinx. So I was like, come on, we're superheroes everywhere. Why aren't we in comic books? So that's why I created Phenom X.
Same, right? Same.
And John, did I hear that you covered your bathroom with comics, like rip-outs? Did you cut them? What did you do? How did it go?
I know y'all gonna hate me because I took some really old classic comic books and I thought I was preserving them, and I opened them up carefully and I pasted them on my bathroom wall, and it was on MTV Cribs in the 90s, but I sold the house, so I don't have the comics anymore. I know it's a bad story. Thanks a lot for throwing me under the bus.
I'm sorry, I had to say it. I wondered if there was a storyline you followed or if it was just random. Okay, well, what were some of the comics you grew up, that inspired you and you grew up reading?
Lone Ranger,
Zorro, Batman, Wolverine. I was just looking for people that were outsiders trying to get in.
Yeah.
Anything like that I could vibe with.
Yeah, for me it was X-Men. I loved X-Men because they were mutants and they were minorities.
Yeah.
And they weren't accepted, so it was something I could relate to. And obviously Spider-Man, every kid.
Spider-Man.
Because you always feel like that teenager that doesn't fit in, that you're powerless, but you know you're special somewhere inside, if only the world would know.
Yeah, I think that's what is really interesting about comics that relates, I think, so much with different communities and minority communities too, is just that it's self-discovery, it's self-acceptance, it's not belonging, it's not ni de aquí ni de allá, right? It's you're not from here. Oh, I love you, thank you. You're not from here, and you're not. When you're home, you're too American. When you're here, you're too Latin. So it's like, where do I belong?
And all those books that we talk about are books we had to imprint ourselves on. We had to go like, those are mutants. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what we're doing now is we're saying we're it.
Yeah, you have, as a kid, because Latin people are the least represented in children's picture books, which is really sad because we're the largest population across America in public schools. And it starts even when you're that young that you're not seeing yourself.
Right.
And you want to see yourself as Harold in the Purple Crayon. Even though little boy's white, you want to see him a little browner.
But then you figure it out, like, and it's weird. It's like a weird mutant power, because like I felt the same way. And then I would find something like a Grover picture book, and I was like, that cat's like my Tio, like I get it. Like that's it. And so you put yourself in these stories because there aren't any around.
Right.
Yeah.
But how great would it be if they were around?
I know, right?
I mean, where your kids could see themselves looking like themselves, like we just did Encanto, the Disney movie, and it's all Latinx, and it's the whole color spectrum of Latin people, from the lightest to the darkest, from the straightest, beautiful Native American black hair to the curliest, tightest curls. I mean, it's all there.
And in Phenom X, we follow Max Gomez. I want you to share a little bit about his backstory.
Well, I created Max Gomez because where I grew up in New York City, Jackson Heights and LES and my kids, there was a plant, I'm not going to say what kind of plant it was, but it was giving out particulates and toxins, and everybody in the projects there had asthma and lung issues, and my kids have asthma because of that. And we tried to close the plant and we couldn't, but then I thought, because you know they dump so much stuff in people of color in black communities and Latin communities, what if instead of it hurting us, it made us immune, it gave us a superpower, and all of a sudden we could you know, defeat the enemies at large. So that's how Max Gomez and his community, they all got a superpower. And he's for good, but not everybody who got the power is for good. So he has to fight against those in his community who are for evil.
That's awesome. That's what we need.
Thank you.
And then in Rafael Garcia, henchman,
Yeah.
He's a new kind of hero. Can you tell us about him?
Sure. He's a hero with a dad bod.
Yes.
First of all,
Dad bods are hot.
he likes him some beer. He likes him some beer. Rafael does. He likes Modelo time. He's into it.
Dad bod superpower.
And like a lot of us, like my family, like people that work in our business, like he works for a supervillain. Like, right? Like I've worked for Murdoch. I've worked for Fox. But I'm not bad. And Raphael's not bad either, but he struggles with that. Like he's got to pay rent. He's got to do his thing. But he slowly rises up in this organization and realizes what bullshit it is. And then he takes matters into his own hands. So he starts off as a lackey and he becomes a hero. That's Rafa.
That's so interesting, because Max Gomez, he's a brown man, and he's profiled wrongly and in prison. And now he has to prove his innocence, and the government taps him and trains him. And if he fights the enemies that the government wants,
Then they'll let him off.
yes.
See, and that's a bad organization.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Peter, for understanding.
I always say that LA Comic Con is a creator con. A lot of you here want to get your own stories out, and we really want to encourage that, because I think that's how change happens, is by you guys owning your own stories and following that gut instinct to tell them. I wanted to hear some advice that you might have for somebody who wants to write their own comic, or how to start.
I mean, look at all you out there. You love comic books. I bet you everybody's got a story. I've always feel like everybody I meet has a great story. And some people tell it through music, some people tell it through art, some people just tell it through talking to friends.
Talking to friends or just having a life that is worth living. Like, right? That's some of the great stories. I will say this, don't let anybody stop you, ever.
Yeah.
Because, like I told you, I pitched Rafael Garcia to 7 networks. They said no. I made a comic book. I pitched a 1-hour last year drama show about my ancestor, Joaquin Murrieta. Everybody went, no. Nah, that doesn't sound very uplifting, said the people I pitched it to. And I said, well, to me it's uplifting because he kicked your ass. So I wrote a novel, and the novel came out in October. Don't let people tell you no, ever.
Right.
Don't.
Yeah. And that's what we always say in Cine. It's important that you guys take the power for yourselves that you, even if you are posting your things online now with the internet, you can really get your things there. If you do have stories, please send them to El Cine, at Somos El Cine on Instagram. We're always ready to share. If you guys do want to buy Phenom X or Rafael Garcia Henchman, you can come to our booth 548 in the hall.
And I think the book's there too. I think the novel's
Blood
there
and
too.
Gold is the...
Can I say one more thing
Yes,
too
please.
about getting your stories out there?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to have it be bad at the start.
That's a great point. Yeah, don't be afraid to fail, because you can't succeed if you don't fail. I've failed 1,000,000 times before I succeeded once, every single time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Don't keep it in a closet. Don't keep it in your heart. Get it out there. Let it breathe, and then the next one's better.
Good point.
Well, we're going to open it up to some audience questions.
I see the taco. What's the best thing to order over here?
Okay, the first thing is, I don't know if you're familiar with the bulgogi taco.
Yes.
But I actually use the prime rib meat, and then marinate with bulgogi sauce, the Korean famous for. And the combination really works. And I think it's something that you never tasted before. That's like our #1 sell. And also, everybody knows about tripas, but I marinate it in Korean style.
Beautiful.
And also pastor, that the Latin Americans are famous for, I marinate in Korean style also. So it's the same. I kept the original of the Latin flavors, but the meat itself, it is Korean. So it's like a really good fusion that worked out together.
It's very SoCal.
Yeah, it is. And I believe there's some other Korean places, but they were saying it didn't feel right. But when I open up the street vending, I'm getting a really good review. So I think I did the right job.
Beautiful.